Greetings, Rave Adventurers. Welcome back to the channel. Eric UK here with another Games I've Played video. And this one has come about, A, because it's been long overdue, and 2, because RPG Day 2023, today, day 21, asked what was my favourite licensed gaming product. And the ultimate answer for that has ended up being Babylon 5. Okay, so if you don't know Babylon 5, well, I'm a little bit disappointed. Babylon 5 was a television series created by J. Michael Straczynski in the early 90s. A science fiction show built around a space station called Babylon 5. Humanity has just come out of an unfortunate conflict with an ancient, by saying ancient, with one of the older races, the Minbari Federation. And the station acts as a neutral point in space where the various governments in the galaxy, the Earth Alliance, the Minbari Federation, the Narn Regime, Centauri Republic, and all the little peoples who fall under what's called the League of Non-Aligned Worlds can come to discuss, debate, and basically resolve everything so that there are no further wars. Now, obviously, this is good science fiction, so it's not going to stay peaceful very, very long. And it's a show built around like the politics of galactic empires. It's the things that happen on a space station. It's, in places, in fighting. And it also deals with ancient evils out there in the galaxy and the things that start waking up on the borders of known space and starting to manipulate the younger races. And the show was phenomenal. If you haven't watched it, it builds up. The first season wasn't great. The fifth season, the last one, was not amazing, but everything in between. And if you can put up with that and get on with the show, you will find that the show is absolutely awesome. Now, in the late 90s, I say mid to late 90s, there was a role-playing game released for it by a company I think called Chameleon Games, and it was called the Babylon Project. And quite frankly, it was awful. I don't think they did anything past the basic rulebook, which was just a real, unfortunately, cheap and nasty piece of work. When they bought the license, they didn't even bother to buy the license to use like stills from the show or anything like that. It was really bad watercolor artwork, and to the point I didn't even bother running this one. I tried to convert it using the World of Darkness system at the time, which my friends and I were very, very strong fans of. We were playing Vampire the Masquerade at the time. Didn't really work. However, towards the end of the 90s and going into 2000, with the release of D&D 3rd edition and the what's it called, the SRD, Mongoose Publishing released the Babylon 5 role-playing game, and they did it right. They actually used they actually paid for the rights, and they got the artwork, the stills and all this, and they released this game over several years with a number of awesome source books and adventure modules, campaigns, and so on. They did, because I think every licensed product I've ever seen for a role-playing game does this. They did expand themselves the lore a little bit. So there's stuff in there that was not technically canon. The Earth Alliance sourcebook, for instance, did a load of stuff about the Earth Alliance military, involving tanks and stuff like this, which you never really saw in the show, and there's no sort of real hint to anything like that. And they sort of branched out to make a really good sourcebook, but you can't say that it was 100% canon. And unfortunately, I think this is what ultimately caused them to lose the license. There was some sort of unpleasantness behind the scenes, I think, which was a shame. But by this point, they had released everything that they were probably going to be able to release. However, but we're not here to talk about the show specifically or whatever. As I said, it came out at about the time that the D20 SRD came out from Wizards of the Coast. People were releasing their own books and source materials for D&D 3rd. And new games were coming out, modifying the D20 system to create, whatever they were doing. And the Babylon 5 RPG used the D20 system, but they did a really good, clever thing with it, which was, unlike, say, D&D, where you level up and you get loads of hit points, and you go loads, and eventually you can end up with fighters with like 200 odd hit points or whatever. This didn't do that. When you leveled, your hit points never increased. You were basically stuck with what you got. You were normal people. You aren't superheroes like you are in D&D or whatever. You were represented as normal people. And instead, you got more skill points. The classes were, I'm trying to remember now, it's been a very long time. But you had things, or you could play a medic, you had like a soldiery type, you had a roguey sort of type, telepath, so on. And they did expand this a bit further with some of the other books. You did get prestige classes. You could become a ranger, which is not a D&D ranger with a bow. This is don't want to spoil the show for those that haven't seen it, but it's something that comes up in the show and becomes quite important. And you could become an agent of various governments or whatever. But it basically used the D20 system. So it was a D20 roll plus modifiers, and you hit a target number and you got it. And that's skill checks, attack rolls, saving throws. Combat was intentionally kind of deadly, as it should be. You could probably take a couple of hits from a PPG or a knife or something, but you weren't going to be standing in a firefight for very long. So it really did these things did obviously happen. It's a role-playing game, but it did kind of really try and push you to be playing more of a role-playing rather than a combat type element to the game. And I just think they did a phenomenally great job of it. And that's why it is my favourite licensed product, my favourite licensed game in anything, really. It's hard to explain, but yeah, Mongoose Publishing, who also did some very odd things like the Starship Troopers game, and they did a really good Judge Dredd, did a phenomenal job with this. It's just a shame in a way that whatever was going on behind the scenes towards the end couldn't be resolved, and the game went. I did run a fairly lengthy campaign. I had things slotted out that coincided with the main 5 seasons. They did interact with some of the show's characters, and we did have sort of like a tie-in to certain episodes as well. And although unfortunately, as all these things do, these long campaign ideas never really sort of hold out. We had a great time playing this. Definitely one of my favourites. If you see it out there, going cheap on eBay or in a secondhand game store or something like that, and you like the show, I recommend picking it up. If you haven't seen the show, I recommend going and doing that as well. They are doing a remake. I think J. Michael Straczynski is looking to do that in the next couple of years, but I would look up what had gone before. Awesome sauce. Anyway, thank you for watching this. I know I very much waffled on this particular video, but if you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up. I know I say this every video, but it does help the channel. Hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care and good gaming.